This is Steve Young for the Co-Roundtable. I've just read this book right here called Bushido Capitalism, written by a Japanese business leader, Mr. Kengo Sakurada of the Sompo Insurance Company. And I was interested in it because, as you may remember, that our Co-Roundtable ethical principles for business were a fusion of, a combination of, an amalgamation of sort of Catholic social teachings, American Protestant sense for personal responsibility, and a Japanese value called kyosei. And this Bushido Capitalism, working off a book written about 100 years ago on what is the code of Bushido for Japanese samurai, is really another way of talking about kyosei. People relating to each other with goodwill and respect and getting things done together. I was struck by this because right now, and we're talking December 2021, there are big issues both in my country, the United States, but also in Europe, and now in France with a new presidential campaign starting, about what do we want to call them? Professor Sam Huntington used to talk about a clash of civilizations, or it's around issues of immigration or different ethnicities, that there's a presumption somehow that there's a part of our moral, social DNA which is shaped by our ethnic group, our religion, something like that, or our form of civilization. But what if something like Bushido Capitalism or kyosei actually resonates very closely with things that Europeans feel and believe and Americans feel and believe, but they just use different words? I think that's something we should pay a lot of attention to. So you can sort of have your cake and eat it too. You can have some sense of participating in a very humanistic, universal frame of reference towards other people, but at the same time, you can be very proud of being Japanese or American or Catholic or Protestant or Muslim or whoever you are. The code of Bushido, according to Mr. Sakakura, has 7 points. I'd just like to briefly note them and have you think about them. The first point is take success by assuming responsibility for others. Consider the interest of the many, not just yourself. The second point is courage, which is another way of going beyond yourself. It's risk-taking. It's having a value that's important, that you're willing to strive for. The third point is either, to use an American phrase, duty of care, where your responsibility says you have to care about those who are vulnerable, who depend on your being wise, right, just, etc., etc. Another word, very Buddhist, is compassion. The fourth value is, translation doesn't work too well for me, it's being polite. Because I think in American English, being polite is often seen as formalistic or superficial, or sometimes just, frankly, almost a con. I'm polite to you, but that's just the cover for my real feelings. But in the code of Bushido, this politeness is linked to a more profound level of respect for others and their opinions, where you give them space. And they're supposed to reciprocate and give you space too. But there is a degree of formality, which is a way of being part of a group, of a collective. You're not imposing your own values or fears or ambitions or narcissism on others. You have a sense of restraint and you are controlling your own power. The fifth value of Bushido capitalism is the truth. Sakakura-san talks about its veracity, but you are living in reality. And we at the Co-Roundtable try to talk about this a lot when it's like, who are your stakeholders? How should you treat your stakeholders? You're not supposed to live in a bubble of your own creation, and something that's sort of illusional or delusional or too optimistic. Pollyannish is an old sort of English word we use. Myopic is another word. Myopia, blindness, narrow-sightedness, short-sightedness distracts you from seeing the truth. 6, there's some concept of honor. and how to talk about that. It's honor is the way it's used in Bushido capitalism. Again, is how you act. Honor is not something that is automatically yours because you have a lot of money, because you have a senior position or something like that. You have to do something to earn honor. You have to carry out your life, act in a way, have the behaviors which serve something higher. So if you have your duty of care, if you're polite, if you're courageous, honor should come to you because you're doing good service. And finally, the seventh value is loyalty. And that's described as having a sense of mission, a sense of purpose larger than yourself. I think sometimes in the Christian tradition, particularly Protestants, we talk about this as a vocation. You have been called to do something, sort of to move out of your skin somehow, out of your self-interest, out of your little playpen, to go into a broader world and get something done which has a positive impact for others.